everybody, it's Orange from the Dog and Bandits. Happy Friday. Hey, if you're like me growing up, besides our comics and our toys, for me, baseball cards, we also had our records. And for a lot of us, it was Sesame Street, it was Superman, it was Star Wars, things like Kojak, the Disney movies, you name it. Well, those are part of Power Records and Peter Pan Records and other companies. And today we have Brian Washington on. He is an expert on all things Power Records and the other record companies. We're going to talk about Marvel, DC, all these cool albums, and the voices behind them, and how these stories were created, and it really added to us as comics fans' love of comics. So, without further ado, here's Brian Phillips, and today we are discovering a sort of secret corner of the comic book universe, which is the comic book record connection. And who better to do it with than Mr. Brian Washington? Brian, thank you so much for taking the time.
Owen, thanks very much for having me.
Now, Brian, you are the head of the Power Records Facebook group, which I am so thankful I came upon, which talks about all the different children's records, tapes, books that came out, from I'd say the 60s on. How did that all get started?
Well, actually, it started before I joined.
Mhm.
Um, uh, I I came across the group through Facebook, and I decided to post a few related materials here and there. And then after a while, for some reason that I cannot fathom, I found myself becoming administrator
Hey.
for the group. Mostly because not only do I post the albums or books or what have you,
Mhm.
I tried to make them interesting by putting in some background information on that particular topic,
Mhm.
and I guess a lot of people took to it, and here we are.
Now, folks, I highly recommend Google or type Brian's name into YouTube. He did a wonderful interview, which I saw, where you show a lot of the pieces of your collection, which is absolutely brilliant, the stuff that you have. If you could tell our folks, how did you first start getting into collecting these records?
Well, let's see. It goes back to when I was about mm, I'm going to say six um, or five. When I first started kindergarten.
Mhm.
Before then, I was always fascinated with the vinyl record,
Mhm.
as it was the dominant format of the time. I'm a '70s kid, so that should say something. And I listened to all sorts of music through my family, and in my house we have a big family. And I've always marveled at the album covers and the labels, the designs, and what have you. Uh, but it wasn't until I started kindergarten and I looked at some of the um, some of the records that they had there, and the artwork on the covers struck a chord in me.
Mhm.
And then I start listening to a few, and um, I found myself lost um, in the uh, um, in the music, the artwork, just about everything about it. And it wasn't until I was about until 13 when I started collecting um, children's records.
Mhm.
At first, it started as um, at first it was to collect um, a number of albums and read-alongs,
Mhm.
books and records by a specific artist. His name was George Peed, and he was a Disney animator. worked on such films as Fantasia and Pinocchio. And then after World War II, um, he relocated to the East Coast and still did some materials for Disney merchandising. Are you familiar with the Disney school bus lunchbox?
Familiar, yes.
Yeah, he designed that.
Hmm.
And then eventually he also became the character designer for the animated series The Mighty Hercules
Yeah.
back in 1963. And then after that, he made his way to Peter Pan Records and designed numerous album covers and read-along books up until, yes, that is one of them. That is one of them. And I was so fascinated by his artwork that I started collecting all the materials um, uh, that had his works on it. And then eventually it just snowballed into other labels that I picked up in the library, and I didn't want to bring them back.
Right.
I wanted to keep them. um, and and then over time, I then discovered eBay in 1999. And at first, I thought it was like an online thrift store.
Hmm.
You just find stuff here and there, regardless of the condition and everything. And then I came across one particular 7-inch 45 read along that was still sealed, and it was from a series that I had long since forgotten about.
Hmm.
And I picked it up, and eventually I started finding more uh, records um, in sealed or in mint condition, and eventually that became my personal criteria. And so in essence, I've been collecting this stuff for, I would say, almost 45 years.
I want to talk about George for a second because, like I showed before, and for those listening, it's an album called The Monster Mash. But artwork, you have a brief second to catch someone's attention, like you spoke about, and make them want to pick up this record and see what it's about. His art, for this, I've seen other works that he's done. He's one of those underappreciated artists because he sold records just by his art. You saw that and you wanted to grab it. Um,
Exactly.
Talk a little bit about what it was about his art that just drew you in so much.
Uh, he had this sense of movement,
Mhm.
and they're so colorful in scope that you just can't take your eyes off it. Um, I'm going to go back to when I was 6.
Mhm.
I was walking down the mall um, all by myself because I was so brave, you know. And I walked past the record store. At that time, it was called Waxy Maxy.
Mhm.
It's unfortunately it's not name's not there anymore, but there you go. I didn't go in, but I walked past the windows of the store, and there was a 12-inch book and record of Peter Pan's production of Pinocchio. Pinocchio had always been my favorite story,
Mhm.
regardless of which version it is. But that particular album caught my attention right away, and it was like nothing I had ever seen, and it became my idea of the character.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I would say about a year or so that I got that album as a Christmas present.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the interiors did not match the cover. But nonetheless, uh, it made it an enjoyable experience. Um, if you indulge me for 1 minute,
Sure.
I'll show you what it looks like.
All right. Very nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's so bright and so colorful, and it's just so strikingly fun,
Right.
for lack of a better word. And it was through this and so many others that I've come across before I started my collection.
Right.
I became a fan.
Now, I have to ask because we do mainly comics. Were you a comic book fan too growing up, or not so much?
That would be my brother.
Okay.
I I did not really get into all the superhero stuff, although we did watch the New Adventures of Superman from Filmation and Hanna-Barbera's version of the Super Friends,
Mhm.
growing up. Um, but I didn't really get into that sort of thing until I picked up a couple of the Power Records titles. The very first album, or the very first record I picked up was back in let's see, I was about 12,
Mhm.
and it was a 7-inch LP of Superman in the Mixaplick Up Menace. And I didn't realize at the time that the artwork for that was done by Neil Adams,
Mhm.
uh, renowned comic book legend,
Mhm.
RIP. And then I started picking up more and more um, um, from that label. And I didn't realize at the time that Power Records and Peter Pan were one and the same.
Okay. Huh.
So that helped snowball my collection.
I want to show you. I have a couple here. I think this is a Neil Adams.
I'm going to say it could be Neil Adams.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not as well versed as say the next person,
Right.
but I can tell you that that one,
Hmm.
number 8156, is that correct? 8156, correct. Yes, that is definitely Neil Adams
Yep.
handiwork.
I want. I mean, because I have you, I'm going to do a really nerdy deep dive with you here. With
Let's
these
go.
albums, the thing about it is, and we enjoyed them listening to it. I think it sort of brought Superman to us. We didn't, because when you don't have TV, like when we were younger, we didn't have accessibility to every show that we have now. So listening to these records was such a form of entertainment. But the strange thing was that the actors and actresses who did these stories were never given any kind of recognition on the label, as far as I saw on the cover and stuff like that. Do you have any information about who these people were, and did they do various different gigs?
Well, I had an online conversation with voice actor Don Westcott.
Okay.
Um, I looked him up uh, when I uh, when I was going through some um, forums
Mhm.
regarding Power Records,
Mhm.
and someone made mention of a couple of names, and Don Westcott was among them. So I contacted him through Facebook, and he gave and through the basic Q&As, he gave me a list of several other performers that did some of the albums with him.
Okay.
Now, Don Westcott, he provided numerous voices um, for Power and Peter Pan
Mhm.
when Peter Pan retired the Power label. He was he narrated the majority of the stories. Um, for the Planet of the Apes, he was the voice of Cornelius.
Mhm.
In the second Superman album, he was the voice of Mr. Mxyzptlk
Mhm.
and Lex Luthor.
Oh, okay.
In the Star Trek albums, all three Star Trek albums that they produced, he was the voice of engineer Montgomery Scott. And then in the classic 12-inch LP book and record, A Story of Dracula, the Wolfman, and Frankenstein, he was not only the narrator, he was also the voice of Dracula, Frankenstein's second monster,
Yeah.
and the Gypsy Torque.
Wow.
The pentagram, and the moon is full tonight.
That's pretty amazing. Did he enjoy doing the works?
Oh, immensely.
Mhm.
Um, Let me see. Um, after Peter Pan retired Power, he continued he continued to do some work with Peter Pan with I think he did the third issue of the Christmas LP Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer um, in '78. He also narrated and voiced Dracula in Peter Pan's some would call it an oddity, uh, but I just think it's one of the cool albums that they put out. Monster Christmas Mash.
Wow. I gotta find that.
You got to find that.
Let me write that down.
Monster Christmas Mash number 8153,
All
released
right.
in 1975.
Wow. Now, I would going back to some of the Disney stuff. That when they did albums that were based on films that they had done that come out, were they just sort of lifting the audio tracks from the film itself, or were they recreating it in the studio with different actors and actresses?
It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
Um, for instance, you would have uh, actor Peter Ustinov come in and do the narration for the album version of Blackbeard's Ghost.
Okay.
And then they would add the dialogue tracks of the original voices of the original voices of the actors.
Mhm.
Um, and then you and then for other albums, you would have someone, let's say, voice actor Dallas McKennon,
Mhm.
who voiced Archie Andrews in Filmation's various Archie series from 1968 to I'm going to say 78.
Okay.
Um, he would voice some of the other characters like Bagheera, the panther for the Jungle Book. Um, so it varies, but it depends on the album.
Okay. The really fascinating thing about Peter Pan and Power is I think a bit I love like the Funko Pops now because they were getting licenses from DC, from Marvel, from Disney,
Mhm.
from all these different studios. You know, was it just that they were the only game in town, or they were the best game in town if you wanted to put your stuff out and get it out there to a bigger audience?
Well, I think back in that time, I think it was easier
Mhm.
uh, to uh, to licenses for other companies' properties.
Mhm.
It's it was a common thing. Golden Records did that with Casper, Popeye, even the Flintstones.
Mhm.
Um, and the thing about the Flintstones, they had the original actors come in and sing some of the songs and do some of the dialogue,
Mhm.
um, surrounding surrounding the songs. Um, Nowadays, uh, it, I would say it's a little difficult to do because now Marvel is under Disney. Uh, DC is under Warner Brothers. I'm not sure if they were under Warner Brothers back then,
Mhm.
um, but just the same.
Right.
And Disney, forget it.
It's not happening.
Well, I mean, you can do some of the songs.
Okay.
You can do covers of songs. You know, but but using their characters, nah.
Right. So that's not going to work. I want to ask some collectors questions for you now. Um,
Sure.
I've seen you go into tag sales, and my friend collects, record albums, stuff like that. Prices of vinyl and the popularity of vinyl has skyrocketed. It used to be, you find a couple of crates at a tag sale. Now there's boxes and boxes and folks going through it all the time. Have you seen, as a collector, prices going up as well on these albums too? Are they getting brought into this new vinyl craze?
That's actually a good question. I have I have seen some ridiculous prices when I'm going through online uh, uh, what's what I'm looking for, places,
Yeah,
for lack of a better term. Like eBay and Etsy
right.
and even Amazon.
Hmm.
Um, word of warning: avoid Amazon.
Yeah.
Uh, because the prices are just so ridiculous. Especially if they're sealed.
Okay.
Um, so I guess a lot of people buy into the fact that because the albums or the records overall are vintage, the 50s, from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Um, Especially if they're um, in with this particular genre,
Hmm.
that they have that they're considered rare and they must be valuable. They're under Disney, and that's I mean you will also go on Discogs. That's another name that escaped me. You would go on Discogs
Hmm.
and a lot of people use that site
Hmm.
because of the price value that's being placed there. And I mean, I have to point out there was one particular album on the Disney label. It was called A Christmas Adventure in Disneyland.
Okay.
It's a storyteller 12-inch LP with a 16-page book. And I believe it came out around 19 I'm going to say 58 or 59,
Hmm.
and it was in mint sealed condition, and they were selling it for $3,000.
Wow.
Now, I don't think that anyone would put up that kind of money for such an album.
Mhm.
I mean, and even one that's considered extremely rare is a is the Disney album Alice in Wonderland, or songs from Alice in Wonderland,
Mhm.
uh, going back to I believe 1958.
Okay.
Um, you will see some ridiculous prices for that, because to a lot of collectors and sellers especially, that is considered rare.
Okay.
I mean, for the artwork and what have you. Um, are there people that out there that would buy something like that? Maybe,
Mhm.
maybe. But then again, there you may find some albums from Golden that feature what they call, what was it, Marvel Age Comic Spectacular.
Okay.
They have they put out four albums: The Amazing Spider-Man,
Mhm.
The Fantastic Four, The Adventures featuring Captain America, and Journey into Mystery, introducing the mighty Thor. And these albums came out in 1966, but they also contained reprints of the comics.
Okay.
Now, you can imagine if you were to come across them today.
You know, I think you just solved the mystery for me right there, legitimately, because um many years ago, my cousin and I were at a comic shop and we found the Journey into Mystery first appearance of Thor. It was
Mhm.
$15. We thought, oh my goodness, we have this is the steal of a lifetime. We brought it home. We noticed there were no ads inside. It was a very condensed, thinner version of the story, and we
Yes.
just we weren't sure what it was. We had somebody said, "Oh, it's a reprint or something like that," and I was like, well, "That's
Mhm.
strange to reprint it without all the ads and stuff inside." Do you think that could have been the comic that might have been inside the album?
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, so now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
Hmm?
And
That's how.
knowing is half the battle.
There you go. You're my hawk. I For a collector like yourself, because like I said, I've seen the video, I've seen your collection. Are you someone that there's one to keep closed and there's one to listen to? You might get, a little more banged up one just to check it out and see what it's about. Or is it for you just you want to get the best quality available?
For me, it's pretty much the latter. The latter.
Okay.
I've before before um before I discovered eBay,
Mhm.
I went out to find these records in thrift stores.
Mhm.
Um, at that point in time, I'm just throwing this out there.
Mhm.
Um, I was still an avid listener of Peter Pan and Power,
Mhm.
but I discovered that some of the earlier albums that I have played and looked at when I was younger. But I noticed that there have been some significant changes to the appearances. The back cover would have the I'm going to say the early editions of certain albums would have some information on the back,
Mhm.
like listings of other available albums at the time.
Mhm.
Um, but then when you pick up a copy some years later, they would have some different information on it on the back. It could be like a special game for kids to play, or they would um, update the title information um, to keep it um, current.
Okay.
And suddenly the earlier ones became hard to find. So it was suggested that I go to thrift stores,
Mhm.
and and for several years it became a hit or miss. I may come across an album that caught my attention through the listings, um, on the back cover, or inside uh, the inside cover of a read along.
Mhm.
And while I'm happy to finally come across it, it's it's all dirtied and scratched on, written on, taped up, and what have you. And then we played that record. Uh, you have the scratches,
Yeah.
you know, and and after a while, it's like, okay, if this is how I find it, and this is all I have, this is all I have to this is all I have to come by,
Mhm.
and fine, I'll I'll take it. But then eBay changed all that,
Yeah.
and since then, as I said earlier, it became something um, that I considered um, most valuable.
Mhm.
Um, and not only that, but on eBay, it gives me a look to some of the other albums that I may not have noticed. Um, but I see that most of them were in first prints edition, and so I hold out uh, for a long while until I find a sealed first print of that particular album or record.
Gotcha.
Patience is the key. That and if you have the money,
There
that's
you
most
go.
important
That helps out.
immensely.
Now, with your collection, are you like a completionist? You were telling me some of the album numbers you have. Like, do you want to go sequentially for those numbers on the album, or is it sort of what genre or albums catch your fancy that you just, you want to put those in your collection?
It's both.
Okay.
And yes, I am a completist.
Mhm.
Um, I can't help it. Um, when you look at the list of the other albums, either on the back cover or on the pocket
Mhm.
of the read-alongs, um, your mind starts to wander a bit. Like, okay, uh, what would this look like? What would it sound like? What would it look like on the label? That sort of deal. And while I try to obtain them all,
Mhm.
like Pokemon, gotta get them all.
Yeah.
Uh, there are some instances in which the labels tend to skip a few numbers here and there.
Mhm.
Um, and after and then that after a while, it's like, okay, all right, so you won't have you it won't be the complete catalog overall, but um, on the same token, you have the complete catalog.
Yeah.
Even with some of the numbers that are missing.
Right.
It has been noted that there are some albums that were planned
Mhm.
or might have been in production, but they were never released.
Got
So that might have some aspect to why that is so.
Is is the record collecting falling into the graded trap that everything else seems to be falling into, where it has to be in a case with a 9.8 grade on it as well, like I'm seeing with video games and VHS tapes and cards and comics and anything else, that if it's not graded, people don't want it. Are records starting to get graded as well?
Well, it depends on who you ask.
Okay.
And in my particular case, um, no, I don't put them in glass cases or anything like that. Um, the the uh the the one thing that I um do with my records, um even though some are still unopened,
Mhm.
yes, I will open them up and listen to them.
Mhm.
I have I have time. Um, but what I do, I put them into the plastic sleeves
Okay,
like so,
makes sense.
just so I could keep the album covers from um, developing rings, or um, or in the case that they're not sealed,
Mhm.
and they're bunched up against each other, on the shelves, some of the colors of one cover would run into the back of the and the other, and it would be such a mess.
Right.
Um, so that's why I have them in that way. Um, um, you know, but no, I don't do the old 9.8 or 6.5, um, uh, um, or what have you. Um, I um, I go by I go by how they appear
Mhm.
once I get them, and that's pretty much it. I'm also not one to determine um, their value, because to me, each and every one of them is priceless to me. And I've had many people contact me and ask me, I have this old 45 from 65, uh, and it's a Disney. Is it worth anything? And it's like I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Um, I mean, I guess it depends on how you look at it.
Right.
So that's pretty much it. That's all I can say. That's all I can tell them.
As of right now, what's your white whale? What's the album that you wanted that's eluded you for all this time that one day somehow it's going to work out and you're going to get it?
Do you want the whole list or just the top 10?
Let's go. Let's go crazy. What's on your wish list?
Well, there are a few, and before I give off a few titles,
Mhm.
there were some that I managed to find,
Mhm.
um, and uh, and they're up there on the shelves with the other albums. Among those was the 7-inch OP read along version of Jim Henson's Labyrinth.
Yeah, I saw that in the video. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, under the Buena Vista label.
Mhm.
That one is rare because it was put out in '86.
Mhm.
Uh, that was um, um, that was around the time that all the labels started phasing out vinyl altogether. So very few copies were put out,
Mhm.
and that's why that was is difficult to find nowadays. Uh, but uh, but to answer your question, one such title that I'm currently looking for, and if anyone else finds it, it's mine. Uh, there is there's a 12-inch album by Kid Stuff
Mhm.
called Dungeons and Dragons, Quest for the Cursed Bone.
Okay.
And I think that came out in '84,
Mhm.
I believe. Uh, and I'm trying to think what else is there? Uh, there's just so many. Um, there was a when I was a kid, when I was inside the record store, and I came across a 12-inch LP of Peter Pan's production of Cinderella,
Mhm.
and if I'm not mistaken, it had the artwork of George Peede on the
Mhm.
cover. Um, and then about a year or two later, I asked my mom to pick up that particular album
Mhm.
for me, and she did. And when I saw it in the back of my mind, I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute, that's not it.
Mhm.
It is from Peter Pan, and it is Cinderella, but it had totally different artwork on the cover. And I swear to this very day, I know it's not nice to swear, um, that the George P. design of the Cinderella 12-inch LP broken record is out there. I am not crazy. It is out there, and I'm determined to find it. Um,
Have you ever seen like a cover on it, like a Google search or anything like that to verify it, or you're just going off of gut instinct?
I went, let's see, I went through Google, I went through eBay, I went through Discogs. I went through it all. It's like Shangri-La. It doesn't exist, but it's out there. Let's see, one other um, uh, set I'm looking for is the 7-inch 45 box set
Mhm.
of the Muppet Alphabet Carry About.
Good.
And what that is, it's the um, I'm not going to say condensed
Mhm.
version, but it's the 45 equivalent of the Muppet Alphabet album
Okay.
from 1971. Um, now they've put out individual uh, 7 inchers uh, with little books
Mhm.
in each shape of the alphabet. So on record one, you would have A, B, C, D, and the four books with the letters A, B, C, and D,
Mhm.
and it goes all the way to X, Y, Z. So seven books and records overall.
Mhm.
The box set would contain all 7 records and all 26 letters books.
All right.
So there you go.
If people are on the lookout, they'll certainly have to let you know.
Well, I hope so. I really, really hope so. And they if they find it, say, "Oh yeah, that guy Brian, he's looking for it. I'm keeping it."
You're gonna get, all sorts of crazy messages and stuff like that, folks showing off.
I mean, if they find it and if they keep it and they enjoy it, more power to them.
Right.
But the the one thing that I'm most grateful for is that when they first put out these albums, when they first put out all these records, I should say, they put them out in such quantity,
Mhm.
you know, that even though you may find maybe, let's say, 6 copies,
Mhm.
of the same particular album at a record store, they all of them may not sell, and they may and they probably go back uh, uh, to the manufacturers or to the labels,
Mhm.
um, and eventually, they find their way to record conventions,
Mhm.
or to some extent thrift stores or on eBay, and you're able to find them. It may take a long time, but you'll find it.
Yeah.
It's out there. I'm not crazy.
Actually,
Peter Pan,
'cause
Cinderella's out there.
from your post inspired me. I looked out and I found some of these,
Yes.
the comic and the records and stuff like that. Were these big sellers? I mean, this is I was very young when these came out, but were these a popular seller? Because it seems like they're kind of random stories that they were kind of pulling from and putting out the records for them. They weren't like key stories or anything like that.
Well, in that particular case,
Hmm.
the Amazing Spider-Man Invasion of the Dragon Men,
Hmm.
number PR 24. Um, it like several other titles after that.
Hmm.
Those were called from the 12-inch LPs,
Okay.
and they were formatted into the book and record sets.
Hmm.
Before that, Power put out uh, 12 titles, uh, four in different categories. You had the Amazing Spider-Man, the Mark of the Man-Wolf, the Incredible Hulk at Bay, Captain America and the Falcon and the Phoenix Shall Arise, and the Fantastic Four: The Way It Began. All those under the superhero series.
Hmm.
The next set is The Monster of Frankenstein, Dracula, Terror in the Snow, The Man Thing, Night of the Laughing Dead, and The Curse of the Werewolf under the Monster series. With those were reprinted and edited uh, for time, of course,
Hmm.
um, and um, and those were recorded especially for that series. The next four is the Planet of the Apes titles.
Hmm.
Now, of course, a lot of people tend to um, would bring up the fact that um, why 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 didn't they do Conquest? Um, is it because it would? It must be because it was too violent for children in the Man Thing.
A clown kills
The
himself.
clown kills himself.
I was about to say, man, it's not a fun issue.
It isn't.
No, it's a very disturbing and strange issue. That's why I was like, what are they pulling from?
Exactly. Out of all the Man Thing stories, this is what they came up with.
Kids like suicide and clowns and stuff like that and
And
swamps.
clowns committing suicide.
Yeah.
So there you go. Uh, so um, the thing about the Planet of the Apes stories, those were original adaptations designed specifically for that series.
Mhm.
because they only put out four titles, um, they also put compiled those stories into a 12-inch LP, and there was simply no room for the fifth story. So it only stands to reason that between Escape from the Planet of the Apes to Battle of the Planet of the Apes, years have gone by. We already know what happened. The apes have taken over the planet, hence the title. um, and as at that time, Battle for the Planet of the Apes was the final title in the film franchise.
Okay.
Never mind the fact that Tim Burton was going to do his version in 2001,
Right.
and then all the Caesar led stories
Mhm.
after that. Um, um, that practically closed out the series.
Okay.
So it would make sense for Power to just do those four,
Mhm.
Conquest being left out, because we know what happened in between um, Escape and Battle.
Mhm.
So there you go.
Uh, One last question for you is it's the Star Wars records. Are they priced higher than they should be because they're Star Wars? Are they not that rare?
I'm not going to say that they're priced higher, uh, but they are common. I mean, they're easy to find,
Mhm.
especially on eBay.
Okay.
Um, Although I will give you a little trivia,
Mhm.
because it was pointed out to me uh, by a friend of mine. Um, Although they used other actors to voice the characters
Mhm.
in the read along versions. Um, the actor who was the voice of Darth Vader was David Prowse.
Really? He finally
Yes,
got his chance.
yes, he finally got his chance without the suit.
That's pretty awesome. I didn't know that. Wow. Good for him.
Yeah,
I gotta say, these records just it takes you back to, I mean, we're so used to now YouTube and we can watch any movie we want on demand and this and that. But, as kids putting these records on and just listening to these stories, and it just took us to a place in our own imagination. I think that's what makes them so wonderful and why folks are so attached to them as well.
exactly. And the thing is, it still does,
Yep.
and it still can. Um, it's one thing to go on YouTube and just hear the stories,
Mhm.
but it's another to actually have that particular book or that particular record in your hand, and the anticipation of just putting the record on the turntable and putting the needle on, and you open up your book and you just wait, uh, for that particular voice. This is the story of Star Wars. You can read along with me in your book.
Mhm.
You will know it is time to turn the page when you hear R2D2 beep like this. Let's begin now. Da, 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 da. Okay, so
That was
yeah,
spot on R2D2, by the way.
someone out there could do it better, but that's as best as it's going to get.
And we're back. Man, I had such a good time talking to Brian. Like I said, love to have him back. I think you guys, if you're my age in our 40s and 50s and beyond, we remember these records. They're a big part of growing up. Our parents would get them for us. And for this, I actually found out this comic I had, the Journey in the Mystery comic, came from a Marvel record that came out in the 60s. So that answered a almost 30-year-old question I had. So that was a wonderful part of this interview. Brian, thank you so much for taking the time to talk. Love to have you back. Guys, thank you so much for listening. And on the post for these, if you have some of these records laying around, show some pictures. Let's see what you guys have. All right. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you soon. Bye.